Hey guys, Kamina the coach here, looking a little rough, and I don't care. It's my day off, and I just started a new term, and I am working long hours. So, welcome back. If you've been here before, if this is your first time, welcome. My name is Kamina the coach. I am an American who has been working and living abroad for, I don't know, 15 years? No, 13 years, something like that, since 2011, 2010, something like that. Anyways, I'm in my ninth country working and living abroad. March of 2020, I did have to relocate back to the United States. So, this channel was about working and living abroad and getting the courage together to work and live abroad. And with the influx of COVID in March of 2020, I went back to the United States and started actively working on early childhood trauma and adoption trauma. I was very lucky to get back out of the country in September of 2022, and I am currently in Iraq, Baghdad, and I'm excited to be with you today. I have been trying to find time to make this video. Like I said, we just started a new term, and I've been very, very busy. Um, I'm really excited about this because this is something that really works for me. And so I'm gonna kind of talk about a problem with working and living abroad, at least something that I have experienced. And then I'm going to layer on top of that something, a toy for your toy box, a tool for your toolbox, however you wanna label it, for working through really angsty situations. So situations where you're stuck on ruminate, you can't think straight, your heart is really, really beating fast, and you potentially are spending like hours or potentially even days on end in this really hyped up anxious mode. So I have found something that really works for me. I really hate feeling like that. And so I'm going to kind of share the story with you that caused me to do this most recently. I'm going to start off with a little bit of theory um, first. So this video will be a little bit about working and living abroad, but mostly it is about a technique to use to kind of help you when you are stuck, when something has happened that's got you in that kind of feedback loop, which is what that is. And it's not a great feeling, at least for me, it's not. So, why do we get into these situations? Why do we sometimes act in ways that we don't like? Why do we get stuck in feedback loops? So ultimately, at the end of the day, anything that we don't like, that anything that doesn't feel good for long periods of time, is usually something that is affecting our inner child. And almost any time when there is some kind of outburst or you kind of act in a way that seems uncharacteristic, it is usually because you have not been attending to your inner child, and your inner child has seen that you will not take care of them, so they are lashing out, trying to get the care that they need from someone else. And I will tell you emphatically that while you can co-regulate with other people, the care and love of your inner child is, at the end of the day, your responsibility. The care and the safety of your inner child, the love and attention that that child needs, is your responsibility. Let me say it again for the people in the back. It is no one else's responsibility to care for and make your inner child feel safe but your own. It is your number one, it should be your number one priority. And that is not selfish. And I'm not talking about being selfish. I am talking about taking care of your inner child. So, now then, I suppose I'll get into the story. I have recently done a video about being a woman abroad. A woman had asked in a black sit group. She had asked about, she had visited on vacation. And by the way, just because you've gone on vacation somewhere does not mean that is representative of what it's like to live there. I loved to vacation in Thailand. I found it a very difficult country to live in. So just understand that. Now, Mexico, I like to vacation in Mexico, but I do want to live in Mexico. I speak Spanish fluently, totally different ballgame. Anyhow, so a woman in a group said, she said she had been in Morocco and she really liked it. And then she asked about what is it like to live, she's wondering about living in Algeria. And I'm like, wow, what a big jump, Morocco to Algeria. That is a really big jump. Algeria has had a lot of unrest. But anyways, having lived in a lot of predominantly Muslim countries, I would not recommend to any single woman, especially not a black single woman, to live permanently. Working is a different story, but to live permanently and to choose to relocate permanently to any predominantly Islamic country, I wouldn't recommend it. And there was a guy who was like, Dubai is perfectly safe. Well, first of all, Dubai is not a country. Dubai is an emirate in the United Arab Emirates. That's why I left those groups. Like, I had joined the groups because I was feeling a little lonely and isolated, but I had to leave. It's too much ignorance. But hate to sound pretentious. But so a man commenting on a post where I have said, speaking as a black woman, said, oh, well, Dubai is safe and don't shy away from Muslim countries. So first of all, you're a man, and as I said on that last video, the experience of men, especially black men abroad, is very, very different from the experience of black women. It just is. It's very, very different. I mean, I would go so far as to say wildly different. Additionally, there's just so much about being a black woman anywhere in the world, but especially in the Middle East, where African women have historically been servants. The Middle East had African slaves before the British, and they held slaves well after the British. So Saudi Arabia just freed their slaves in the Kennedy era. President Kennedy, by the way. It was Kennedy that kind of shamed them into freeing their slaves. So let that sink in. The Arab world had slaves before the English and had slaves after the English. So yeah, and all the things that go with that. So obviously Algeria is not in the Middle East, it is in Africa, but there is still this, even among, so there are many people in Africa who are not black, the Berbers and all the like, the Arabs. There are many people, especially in Northern Africa, that are not black, and some of them, especially Egyptians, if you call them African, will get very upset, because when you call them African, they associate that with being black. So be it. So just making these parallels so that you understand how difficult it can be and why I do not recommend that a black woman would choose to relocate, a single black woman would choose to relocate to any of these places on her own. I mean, if even a woman who is Muslim and covered, I wouldn't recommend it unless she's married, coming with her husband and her family. So I am currently in Baghdad, Iraq, and I'm not here to live. I am here teaching at a university. And even though I am in a confined area, I live on the university campus, these things still spill over onto me, this way of living. Um, we can't leave we can't leave the compound without security. There is security everywhere. There are security cameras everywhere, and the security is Iraqi. Um, there are people in towers. There are people in cars parked at the ends of roads. When we go out shopping, there are people taking us. And apparently they're housing them on the compound as well, but just kind of far away from us. So we are allowed to walk around here. I don't walk far from where I live by myself. Due to stress and being overloaded, I did a long walk with a colleague a couple of weeks ago. It took us 2 weeks ago. And I am not the type to get nervous around men. But a car of the security guards here passed us, making lewd gestures and commenting. Who knows what they were saying, but it was definitely directed at me. I think women can gaslight themselves into believing that they're exaggerating, but the man who was with me actually commented on it, and that's why I knew that it was not just me being overly sensitive, it was definitely a thing. And then to top it off, it happened again. So apparently they were switching shifts. So there were 3 people in the back, 2 people in the front. So this happened when they were going into wherever it is they live. And then it happened again on the way out. So I'm assuming a different group of men. And it made me so uncomfortable that, and again, this is not my nature. It made me so uncomfortable that I wanted to like grab onto the man's arm that I was walking with. And we don't have that type of relationship. I was very, very uncomfortable, and I had to sit with this for a while because I was like, because I know I work here at a university and they call it a certain name, but at the end of the day, it's an Iraqi university. It's controlled by an Iraqi man. And at the end of the day, I'm at their mercy. It doesn't really matter that I'm American. I am a Black woman at the end of the day. And how much scrutiny do I want to draw myself to report this? How sad is that? Very common story for women. If you're currently in the United States, though the situation is bad, I dare say that as a woman you have more rights and more freedom than a woman living overseas, but I still choose to live overseas. I just am very aware of the situation and very aware of the repercussions that it could cause me. So I had to sit with this for a while, and I did. I sat with it for a while, and I decided to email the British man who is over this team. He is in charge of all security and training and overseeing them. And I emailed him privately explaining what happened and asked him if it could be handled quietly. Instead of handling it himself, he forwarded it to his operations manager, who is also Iraqi and very devoutly Muslim, who was irate, understandably, but ignored the part of the email where I asked that it be handled discreetly, and did not have the wherewithal to foresee what this could possibly bring on me. We had a little bit of time off in between terms, and I needed to go shopping, so I went to go on a trip, and I've never felt uncomfortable on the trips. The men who take us on the trip wear suits. They're very professional. They're a little bit older. They're not creepy. They've never been creepy. Until this day, it's been about a week ago at this point, and there's a young guy with them because there are a lot of teachers off and they're running a lot of trips. So instead of all the older guys in suits, there is a younger guy with khakis and a polo. And they told me to go ahead and get into one of the armored SUVs, and they never get in the vehicle with us alone. So I'm the only woman in the vehicle, and this young guy gets in the vehicle with me. So he is in the front passenger seat, and I'm sitting. I'm here behind the driver, and he's here in the passenger seat, and he turns his phone up and turns the camera on and angles it so that he and I are both in the picture. Now, don't get me wrong, this happens all over the world where people want to get a picture with the foreigner. However, that's completely, these are my security guards. They're here to protect me. So what are you doing taking the picture? I suspect that it was a bunch of things. So young, knew that, so the guy had blown it up and made a big thing about it. Oh, this is the woman that made the big thing, wants to show his friends. I don't know. I hopped out of the vehicle and reported it to the team leader, who immediately gaslit me and called the guy, made a big scene. It was horrible. And the guy was like, no, I was taking pictures to send to my wife. Everybody gaslit me. Then he reports it to his operations manager in Arabic. So the only people that it's not just the Iraqis here who speak Arabic. People on our staff and our faculty speak Arabic. So he's in the vehicle reporting it to his operations manager in Arabic, and there are other people that I work with hearing what's going on, and it just became this huge thing. The reason why I didn't want to report what happened in the first place. And sitting with this anxiety grew. It grew that night. It was just I won't go into all the details, everything that happened. It was just a horrible evening. The next day was horrible. I messaged the British guy, we set up a meeting. It was just really a horrible feeling. And I was feeling very anxious, and I kept ruminating on it. And I couldn't, it was like a dog with a bone. I couldn't let go of it. I just kept thinking about it. And so I decided to use the same technique that I used the last time I had a trauma flashback. So when I was talking to someone recently, I had a trauma flashback, and I couldn't get out of that feedback loop. And so I remembered that this is because something is going on with my inner child. So I sat down and took out a notebook and so this is the solution for this feedback, being in this place of angst where you're worrying constantly and you can't let go of this worry. So I sat down to write a letter to my inner child, and it becomes this inner dialogue. And I say something like, dear precious baby child, what is going on? I can tell that you're very upset. Can you tell me what is going on? And it is really amazing the things that come out. I have typed this, the time when I had the traumatic flashback, I typed it. This time I hand wrote it, and it didn't matter. I got the same results both times, and I felt so much better, so much calmer. And it was just amazing. And I was able to get insight both times. I was able to get insight that I couldn't from just thinking about it. It was like my subconscious was able to speak to me through my writing. My inner child, whatever you want to call it, was able to speak to me through my writing. And it was spectacular. It was a really spectacular experience. And it really calmed me down and leveled me out and grounded me for the meeting that I needed to be calm and present for with the security manager. So I'd love for you to try that. Leave me a message and let me know what you think. Usually when you are in these really uncomfortable ruminating type situations, it is your inner child trying to tell you something. So I encourage you to tap in and see what they're trying to tell you. It has worked for me every time. The first time was some huge revelations. So listen to your inner child, attend to your inner child. One more tip, the same thing I always say if you're just beginning your healing journey, is to make sure you're speaking kindly to yourself. That's kind of the first step. And never ever saying to yourself, oh, I'm so stupid, or I don't know why I always do that. Always speaking gently and kind to yourself, and remembering that you're responsible for caring for your inner child. We can occasionally self-regulate, but at the end of the day, you are responsible for the well-being of yourself and your inner child. All right, and that's all I got for you today. So until next time, my name is Kamina the Coach, sending you a love, light, peace, and joy. Until next time, I am out. Peace.